Have you ever walked into a home that looked completely done, but somehow felt overwhelming, cluttered, or just slightly off, and you couldn't explain why? What if the problem isn't what you're missing, but what you've added without realizing it? And here's the question most people never ask themselves. What are the small habits you've picked up over time that interior designers quietly notice, but almost never say out loud? Because behind the scenes, there's a pattern. Designers across the US consistently see the same decisions repeated in home after home. Decisions that don't feel wrong when you're making them, but slowly chip away at how a space feels. And according to recent interior design trend reports and client surveys, many of the most common mistakes aren't about budget, style, or taste. They're about behavior. Subtle habits that feel normal, but create visual noise, tension, and a lack of clarity. So let's start with one that almost everyone is guilty of at some point, even if they don't realize it. Why do so many homes feel the need to fill every available surface? Coffee tables, shelves, consoles, nightstands, layered with candles, books, trays, decorative objects, sometimes all at once. Individually, each item makes sense. A candle adds warmth, a book adds personality, a tray adds structure. But when everything shows up at the same time, something unexpected happens. The space stops breathing. And here's what's interesting. Studies in environmental psychology show that when the brain is presented with too many visual elements at once, it works harder to organize what it's seeing. That extra effort doesn't register as a clear thought. It shows up as a feeling. Subtle overwhelm, low-level stress, a sense that something isn't quite settled. So now ask yourself this. If someone removed half the items from your most used surface right now, would the space feel emptier or calmer? Because this is where designers think differently. They don't just decorate, they edit. They understand that what you remove is often more powerful than what you add. But here's the part most people struggle with. If you take things away, won't the space feel unfinished? Not necessarily. In fact, that brings us to the next habit that designers notice almost immediately. The fear of empty space. Have you ever looked at a wall, a shelf, or even a corner of a room and felt like something had to go there? Like leaving it empty would mean the space wasn't complete yet? That instinct is incredibly common, and it's one of the biggest reasons rooms start to feel crowded without you realizing it. But here's the question that changes how you see it. What if empty space isn't something to fix, but something to protect? Because in well-designed homes, empty space isn't accidental. It's intentional. It gives your eye a place to rest. It creates contrast. It allows the things that are present to stand out more clearly. There's actually research in visual perception that shows people consistently rate spaces with balanced negative space as more expensive and calm than spaces that are fully filled, even when the objects themselves are identical. So the difference isn't the furniture or the decor, it's the restraint. And yet most people don't think of restraint as part of design. They think of it as something missing. So here's something to consider. If every wall, every shelf, every corner in your home has something in it, where does your eye go? Because when everything is filled, nothing stands out. Now let's take this one step further, because there's a specific version of this that designers see all the time, and it often starts with good intentions. Treating every wall like a gallery. You've probably seen it before. Frames on every available surface. Artwork spaced evenly across multiple walls. Sometimes even small pieces filling gaps just so nothing feels blank. And again, none of this is technically wrong. Art is personal. It adds character. It tells a story. But here's the problem. When every wall is trying to tell a story at the same time, the room loses its focus. Your brain doesn't know where to look first. There's no hierarchy, no focal point, just a series of competing visuals that all carry equal weight. And when everything has equal importance, nothing feels important. So here's a question that might change how you approach this. If you had to choose just one wall in your room to highlight, just one, where would it be? Because that's how designers think. They create moments. They allow certain areas to stand out while others support quietly in the background. And that contrast is what creates depth. Now, here's where it gets even more subtle. The way people choose art in the first place. Have you ever noticed how often art is treated as the final step? The thing you add at the very end once everything else is already in place? You buy the furniture, arrange the room, and then think, okay, now I need something for the walls. But here's what designers wish more people understood. Art isn't an accessory, it's a foundation. In many professionally designed spaces, artwork is chosen early in the process, sometimes even before furniture. Why? Because it sets the tone, the color palette, the mood, the emotional direction of the room. When art is treated as an afterthought, it often ends up being smaller than it should be, less connected to the space and more about filling a gap than creating an impact. And this leads to one of the most common patterns designers see. Undersized art. A small frame floating in the middle of a large wall. A piece that doesn't relate to the scale of the furniture beneath it. Something that technically fits, but doesn't feel anchored. And your brain notices that imbalance immediately. There's research in spatial perception showing that humans are highly sensitive to scale and proportion. When something is too small for its environment, it creates a kind of visual tension. Again, not something you consciously analyze, but something you feel. So now ask yourself this: is your artwork filling space or defining it? Because those are two very different roles. And once you start seeing that difference, something else becomes clear. Many of these habits aren't about making bad choices. They're about trying to make a space feel complete. But what if completeness isn't about adding more? What if it's about knowing when to stop? Because there's another behavior designers notice, one that often drives all the others, and it has less to do with objects and more to do with how people make decisions inside a space. It's the habit of reacting instead of planning. You see something you like, you bring it home, you find a place for it. Then something else catches your eye, and you do the same thing again. Over time, the space becomes a collection of individual decisions rather than a cohesive whole. And here's the question that almost no one asks in that process. Does this new item strengthen the room or just add to it? Because there's a difference. And once you start asking that question, your space begins to shift in a very different direction. But there's still one category of habit that designers talk about more than almost anything else, something so common, so normalized, that most people don't even see it anymore. And it has to do with how we define personality in a home. Because what comes next isn't about removing everything or making your space feel empty. It's about understanding the difference between expression and excess. And once you see that clearly, it changes how you look at almost every object in your home. So what actually is the difference between a home that feels personal and one that feels overloaded? And how do you know when you've crossed that line without realizing it? Because this is where one of the most misunderstood ideas in home design shows up. The belief that more personality equals more items, more colors, more objects, more things on display. It feels logical. If a few meaningful pieces make a space feel like you, then adding more should make it feel even more personal. But here's what designers quietly notice. At a certain point, personality stops becoming clear and starts becoming diluted. When everything is visible, everything competes. Your favorite objects lose their impact because they're surrounded by too many other things asking for attention at the same time. And your brain, instead of appreciating each piece, starts scanning past all of them. So here's a question that might feel uncomfortable at first. If someone walked into your home for the first time, what would they remember? Not everything, just one or two things. Because that's how people actually experience spaces. They don't absorb every detail. They remember moments. A chair, a piece of art, a corner that felt intentional. And designers build around that idea. They don't try to show everything. They try to highlight something. Now think about your space again. Are there clear moments or just a collection of items? Because that distinction is what separates a home that feels curated from one that feels crowded. And this leads into another habit that shows up in ways most people don't expect. Buying decor in sets. You see it all the time. Matching vases, identical frames, coordinated accessories designed to go together. It feels safe, easy, like you're guaranteed a cohesive look without having to think too much about it. But here's the trade-off. When everything is designed to match perfectly, it often loses character. It starts to feel predictable, almost staged, like it came from a single moment rather than evolving over time. And your brain picks up on that lack of variation as a lack of depth. In fact, studies in environmental preference show that people consistently rate spaces higher when they include a mix of elements, different textures, slightly varied tones, pieces that feel collected rather than purchased all at once. So now here's the question. Does your space feel layered or assembled? Because layered spaces tell a story over time. Assembled spaces feel finished, but not necessarily lived in. And this connects directly to another behavior designers wish more people would reconsider. Holding onto things just in case. Extra decor stored in visible areas. Items that don't quite fit but stay because they might be useful later. Pieces that no longer feel relevant but haven't been removed yet. Individually, each decision feels reasonable. But together, they create something subtle, a lack of clarity. Your space stops reflecting who you are now and starts reflecting everything you've ever liked all at once. And your brain has to process that. So here's something to think about. If you removed every item in your home that you wouldn't buy again today, what would be left? Because that answer often reveals more about your space than anything you could add to it. Now here's where things get even more interesting. There's a specific type of decision that designers almost never make, but shows up in everyday homes constantly. Placing decor without anchoring it. A small object sitting alone on a large surface. A piece that feels like it was placed rather than positioned. Items that don't relate to anything around them. And again, nothing looks wrong in isolation. But your brain senses that something isn't connected. Designers think in relationships. How does this object relate to the one next to it? Does it share a color, a material, a scale? Is it part of a group or is it floating on its own? Because when objects relate to each other, they create structure. And when they don't, the space feels scattered. So now ask yourself this. Are your objects interacting or just coexisting? Because that interaction is what creates a sense of intention. And once you start noticing that, another pattern becomes hard to ignore. The habit of filling a space too quickly. You move into a new home or decide to refresh a room, and there's an urge to complete it as fast as possible. To get everything in place so it finally feels done. And in that process, decisions get compressed. You choose what's available, what fits, what works right now. But here's the hidden cost. When everything is decided at once, the space loses the chance to evolve. It doesn't have time to adjust to how you actually live in it, to reveal what's missing and what isn't needed. And as a result, it can feel complete, but not quite right. So here's a different way to think about it. What if your home isn't something you finish, but something you refine? Because the most compelling spaces aren't rushed. They're built over time, with adjustments, with edits, with decisions that respond to how the space is actually used. And that idea leads to one final question that ties everything together. When you look around your home, does it feel like a series of choices you made consciously, or a series of defaults you never questioned? Because that's what designers are really doing differently. They're not just choosing better items, they're questioning more decisions. They're asking why something is there, what role it plays, whether it strengthens the space or simply fills it, and most importantly, whether it feels intentional. And here's the part that matters most. None of this requires a bigger budget. It doesn't require replacing everything you own or starting from scratch. It starts with awareness, noticing where your space feels slightly crowded, slightly disconnected, slightly overdone, and then making small adjustments, removing one item, shifting another, leaving a space empty on purpose. Because those small changes compound, and over time something shifts. Your home starts to feel clearer, calmer, more aligned with how you actually want to live, not because you added more, but because you finally gave the space room to breathe. So the next time you walk into your home, don't ask what it needs. Ask something quieter. What here doesn't feel intentional? Because once you answer that honestly, even in one small corner, you've already started designing like a professional. And that's the difference most people never see until they do.